Howdy there, folks of the internet. I'm the hopeful guy from Hopeful Guy Gameplays, Sam, and welcome back to Vlad The Impaler. I know it's been a couple of weeks, more than that, but we're gonna go back with the soldier. Well, we haven't been to the Basilica yet, or the palace. Here, you can be on my lap. Just let me move the keyboard out of the way, okay, girl? And you gotta stay away from that. I honestly can't remember what's happening, but we're just gonna go ahead and visit the Basilica. You are visiting the Basilica before sundown when you notice a group of altar boys gathered around a corner. They seem to be up to something, but you can't tell what. When the priest finally calls for them, they run off, giggling and shoving each other. You approach the small table where they had been gathered around an open... When the priest finally calls for them, they run off, giggling and shoving each other. You approach the small table where they hadn't been gathered around an open box. Peering inside, you find a mouse. The mouse is desperately trying to get out of the box, but the boys have covered the poor thing in lamp oil, so it's just slipping helplessly off the sides. Free it. It's just reading, Sam. Remembering the mouse that you used to feed at the orphanage, you pulled the little creature out of the box and put it in your pocket. Once you're outside the Basilica, you set it free in an alley. As it scampers away, remember how difficult it can be for a creature so small to get out of going to church. Okay. I mean, unless the mice from Robin Hood. I got 2 charm. One place I haven't gone to yet is Le Palace. Sure, I'll assist in excavation. You arrive at the palace in a coach, having been summoned by the Sultan's Master of Antiquities. You are ushered inside the gates, escorted to one of the far corners of the palace grounds. Well, that was an impressive leap. No, not that one. Not the camera. There seems to be some sort of excavation going on there. Yet, there appear to be a large number of Janissary guards present for a mere hole in the ground. An educated man in a white turban approaches you and shakes your hand. Ah, thank you for coming, he says. I am the Master of Antiquities to His Excellency. I know it is unorthodox, but I was told to use any resources necessary, and I've heard you've had experience in these matters. What matters, you ask? Ah, let me show you, he replies. The man then leads you down a series of ladders into the ground. At the very bottom, you find yourself in what appears to be a stone tunnel of some ancient architecture. This has apparently been down here the entire time, the Master of Antiquities says, leading you by torchlight down the tunnel. We were digging in order to build an underground storeroom for preservation of perishables when we broke through into this tunnel. I don't know why his accent keeps changing, but you know it, soon he's multicultural. And multiculturalism is not a bad thing. You look at the reliefs of winged monsters carved into the walls. These are Persian, you say. Oh yes, I know, he replies. But these ones are not. He stops and raises his torch. Oh, we don't get to see a picture of it? Oh, come on. The tunnel ends with 2 black iron doors. Molded onto their surface are strange hieroglyphs. Do you recognize them? He asks. A chill runs through your body as you realize where you are standing. You need to get your men out of here, you say. Why? What does this mean? He asks. You turn to him and look him dead in the eyes. These are the gates of Gog and Magog, you say. They are demons of the ancient world, locked away until the end of days, when they will come forth and do battle with the kingdom of heaven. You cannot open these doors. The Master of Antiquities nods. It is as I feared, then. Nonsense, says one of the lesser viziers, standing behind you. The Sultan is ordained to rule the wisdom of Allah. God would not allow His Excellence to build a palace on top of an unholy place. The vizier brushes past you towards the doors. Forget him and get the hell out of there. Grab him before he gets any closer. Since I know what the hieroglyphics are, and they're bad, yeah, we're just gonna grab him. You grab the vizier by the arm and spin him around. Did it not occur to you that it was the intent of Allah for the Sultan to build his palace in order to safeguard the world from opening these doors? The vizier stares you down. I know who you are, he says, and you are not welcome here. The Master of Antiquities then grabs the vizier's arm and says, His Excellency named me to handle this discovery. My authority in this matter is his own. We leave, and we bury this place forever. The vizier sneers at the both of you and then storms off. The Master of Antiquities turns to you and says, Thank you for coming and verifying what I dreaded. You have done His Excellency a great service. As payment, I give you a standing invitation to visit the royal archives whenever you wish. May it aid you in the research of this hideous darkness that plagues our city. You shake his hand, thanking him. As you follow him back up to the tunnel, you think of what a boon that sort of access will be to your investigations. And yet, as you look over your shoulder at the long, dark corridor, you can't help but wonder how everything would have turned out differently had the wrong man found the gates first. Alright, guess we'll go back to the palace. Nope, not gonna do that. Basilica? Yeah, I'll go to evening mass, why not? Oh! Well, fuck. You enter the Basilica shortly after dusk. Evening mass is in session as the priest reads from the Book of Revelations. You walk along the outside of the pews, analyzing the parishioners who have gathered, searching for any sign of the unusual. Your eyes suddenly land on a man sitting in the middle of a pew, whose throat is pouring blood from a gaping gash. Oh! Do I wait for someone else to notice them and watch for reactions of people around them and look for clues? Or do I race to the man and try to check him for evidence before anyone else notices and panic breaks out? Do I want chaotic or... Well, racing indicates that you're... You leap over the pews, jumping to the dying man as his eyes roll into the back of his head. Your agile bounding draws attention to the man's screams. Suddenly erupt across the church. The front of his tunic is soaked in blood by the time you reach him. You immediately begin going through his pockets, searching for anything. The frightened churchgoers move back in panic, with many racing for the doors. Nothing of interest seems to be on his person, but after you quick glance around, you notice a small leather journal on the floor behind his pew. There are 2 bloody fingerprints on it. The assassin must have been after the book, but dropped it in the panic. When they saw you leaping across the church toward him. Okay, we're going to reread that with a serious tone. The assassin must have been after the book, but dropped it in a panic when they saw you leaping across the church toward them. Rifling through the book, you find a list of names. Each name has a date beside it. Flipping through the front page, you see a few words in Greek, which translate to the missing. End of chapter 3. So I believe there are 3 turns and then this next chapter. So evening mass is the end of chapter 3. It would seem as though your deeds have caused you to build up quite a reputation. People seem comfortable in your presence and offer to buy you drinks at the inn. One particular keen musician sings a song about the wandering knight. Nice! I like that armor. And yeah, if I played D&D, a knight's the first thing I would probably choose. Uh, However, for D&D, the first thing I chose was a wizard. It was fun, though. Still is fun whenever I get a chance to play as them. Alright. Chapter 4. Spookum. You descend the cramped staircase below the city streets. At the bottom, you are faced with a heavily armored man in a dark hood. If you're right, everything you've witnessed so far is to be believed, then the answers you need are on the other side of the gate that this man is guarding. If you're wrong, then he will certainly kill you. This escalated kind of quickly. Show him the silver cross? Gambling with your life, you reach around your neck and produce the silver amulet of the cross and dragon. The man nods and opens the gate for you to pass within. As you plunge deeper beneath the city, you breathe in relief. Your plan has worked. He thinks you're a knight from the Order of the Dragon, but all your bravado fades as you enter their secret sanctum. Hooded men and women kneel in rows, murmuring twisted prayers to the silver dragon, crosses out in their hands. On the walls hang... Okay, this deserves a bit more of a dramatic reading. Hooded men and women kneel in rows, murmuring twisted prayers to the silver dragon crosses in their hands. On the walls hang bodies, mutilated in ritualistic ways, with symbols painted in their own blood. Symbols that you have seen all across your encounters in the city. Symbols from the exorcist's doctrine. You dare not stay long enough to be recognized. Besides, you now know who is behind the atrocities. The question on your mind as you duck up a shadowy staircase is, why? Sure, why not? We'll sneak through the shadows. Oh! Oh my! It is approaching midnight as you creep through the shallower waters beneath the dock. One of the patrons of the inn you are staying at said that he's heard chanting in the last few nights coming from under the piers. As you move silently between the columns, you start to make out what sounds like praying. As you approach, you start to see several men moving through the shallows, tossing holy water onto what looks like floating bodies. A moment later, the point of a sword is touching your throat. You turn slowly to find a woman standing there, practically invisible against the dark pillar. Oh, what have we here? She whispers, her accent possibly Romanian. I don't know how that's important. You consider going for your weapon, but you've dealt with a lot of dangerous people in your life. Your instincts tell you that she may be more dangerous than all of them. You raise your hands. She motions you forward. You do as she says, sloshing loudly through the waters, attracting the men just beyond. A few of them draw swords. You can now tell that the 3 of the shadowy men are knights. 2 others are wearing the distinctive headwear of holy inquisitors. Who is this? Asks one of the inquisitors, tucking a copy of the Exorcist's doctrine under his arm. Another cultist. He steps up to you. Come to join your friends in summoning your heathen river goddess. You look down at the bodies floating in the water. They have clearly been killed by the holy men indeed. The corpses all seem to be wearing green sashes with strange symbols sewn into them. I am afraid that you will join them at the cost of your life, says the Inquisitor. May God have mercy on your... Just then, the Inquisitor buckles over and begins vomiting. A moment later, the other men begin retching as well. You are horrified when it becomes apparent that they are vomiting up copious amounts of seaweed. A shiver runs through your body to also notice that someone is slowly rising up out of the water behind them. Try this. I am a knight. And be chivalrous and try to capture one. You kick the Inquisitor over as he pukes the contiguous ropes of seaweed from his mouth. Ugh. You try pulling him away from this frightening scene, but then something pulls you back. You look up, and you see that figure rising from the swelling currents of the river is a woman. She is hunched over with dark green skin and black ropey hair obscuring her face. She is terrifying as she moves forward silently. Then the Inquisitor is wholly yanked from your grasp as the other 4 men topple over as well. That's when you realize that the frightening woman is holding the ends of the long vines of seaweed in her hands, the other ends still running into the mouths of the 4 men attached somehow to their inside. A raspy voice comes from beneath the soaking hair, saying only, "Mine." Realizing that this woman is beyond the scope of your experience, you back away. "Take them," you say, raising your hands, "and may your worshippers rest in peace." Before you can finish, a wave of nausea hits you. You too collapse into the water. You don't throw up, but you cannot stand. The drenched creature slowly rises over you, dragging the holy men, choking behind her. As she leans over you, you glimpse frightening green eyes behind that soggy hair. You wake at dawn, lying in the shallows. Splashing up into a sitting position, you look around. The holy men are gone. The dead cultists are gone. The woman with the sword has escaped. But you are alive, although you feel ill for the next several days. You also feel as you've glimpsed the Bosphorus River in its true and frightening form. Ouch! Oops, I should have ran. Town square. Maybe I found some runes. You have come to the city square in order to find a man who can translate the symbols you found written in blood the other night. As you are searching for the rug where he usually sits, you hear a sudden commotion erupt from the crowd nearby. Shouts and cries of horror go up as you press your way through this to see what is happening. There, sitting in a pool of his own blood, is a man tracing symbols into the ground around him. His belly has been cut open as he has a dirty, jagged knife in his hand. The symbols look familiar to the ones you found on the other night. You step forward. What are you doing?" you ask. A pained smile crosses his crazy mouth as he replies, "Only what the king of the catacombs tells me to do." The man's tongue is swollen and black inside his mouth. "Always what he tells me. Speak to them with my words," he says. "Show them that I yet rule them beneath." He sticks the knife back into his stomach with a painful cry and pulls it out again, freeing more blood. "Have you seen him?" the man asks through clenched teeth. "Yes, I have seen more of him than I can ever forget." The man looks up at you with sudden compassion in his eyes. "You have?" he says. "You have. I can see it. And you know that there is only one way to truly leave his service." You squint your eyes. "And what is that?" you ask. The crazy man's eyes turn even crazier. Then he sticks out his hideous, mummified tongue, cuts it out with a filthy knife. The crowd screams in even more terror. Then the man holds it out in his hand. A smile crosses his bleeding mouth. He makes a sound that resembles a proud laugh. Then he collapses to the ground, dead. You are absolutely horrified and completely disgusted by the entire scene, but nothing could have prepared you for his body to immediately erupt in maggots. Okay. The people in the crowd who are not already vomiting flee as fast as they can, shouting prayers of protection. You cannot believe your own eyes. In mere minutes, the man's body is completely consumed, leaving only a skeleton behind. The only part that remains untouched is the black tongue, lying in the skeleton's desiccated hand. Okay, I'm not doing so well this round. Let's go to the Basilica. Okay, we're entering the East Gate. Uh-oh. I don't like the look of that. You enter the Basilica through the East Gate. The hymns of praying citizens echo hauntingly through the stone antechamber. You are about to step into the main part of the church when you suddenly stop. Something isn't right with the antechamber. After a few moments of looking, you notice a symbol concealed in the masonry of the ceiling. You've seen it before. A 5-pointed crown. The symbol of the Demon King, Asmodeus. It is a warning to the educated that danger awaits he who continues forward. Yeah, I'll be a confident idiot. Drawing your weapon, you begin tapping along the walls in order to find the hint of a hollow space behind it. After long minutes of searching, you find a spot that sounds thinner than the rest of the stone. Putting your strength into your shoulder, you budge and force the wall any direction you can think of until finally, something gives. A part of the wall swivels out to reveal a hidden staircase spiraling down. You descend into darkness and the smell of decay. Upon reaching the bottom, you find a lonely torch hanging from the wall. You recoil in horror to find a room filled with corpses hanging upside down, chained to the ceiling. Each of them has had their skin flayed from their bodies. The walls have been covered in writing, all done in careful penmanship using the blood of those who had been skinned alive. You scan the grisly text only to discover that it is the Commandment of Solomon from the Exorcist's doctrine. The corpses must have been witches, or people suspected of witchcraft. Either way, it would not do to be caught by whichever dark members of the clergy use this horrific place. You leave at once, but not before taking one of the sacrificial knives, which has been inscribed with strange hieroglyphs. Okay, my magic went up. My charm is at 0. My strength and intelligence went down, though. End of chapter 4. Final chapter. Your weapon clangs sharply against the sword of the bearded knight. A shingle gives way under your foot, and you barely manage to adjust your weight before you slide off the roof to certain death. The knight presses his attack. You're forced backwards against the dome of the Hagia Sophia Mosque. It's from Constantinople, huh? You can leap away, invoke wind magic, disarm him and hold him for questioning, or shove him off the roof. Can't wait to see how this fucks up. Okay. You run up to the knight and offer him a hand up, knowing that he has dropped his weapon and might have valuable information. Your name will be added to the list of the judged, the knight threatens. You will join your heathen brothers and sisters impaled on the pikes of hell, and your sultan will at last feel the fires of the master he serves. With that, his hand slips and he plummets screaming to the earth below. As you look down on his broken body impaled on one of the spikes of the mosque's fence, you realize what his final words portend. They are going to assassinate the Sultan. How do I prevent that from happening? You have been invited to the palace to something called the Visitors' Council. As any invitation to the palace is an opportunity to learn more, you accept. What you find that night is a large forum filled with people from all over Europe and the Middle East, all discussing the state of the city and what has to be done about it. There does not, however, seem to be any format or structure to the gathering, which strikes you as strange. How is this council supposed to get anything accomplished? It's at that moment that you notice a European woman standing in the far doorway. There's something striking about her. She's looking right at you. She then motions with her finger for you to follow, and disappears around the corner. You are considering following when you hear someone call to you. You turn and see a crowd of men sitting around on couches amidst the gathering. One of them says, "You're the one who's investigating the murders, aren't you? Come, tell us what you found." Well, they want to know. "Oh, very well," you say, sitting down to join them. "As near as I can tell, there appears to be a conspiracy at work in the city. I've implicated a group of knights and religious officials in some of these crimes, but have yet to find any solid proof. What's more, there are elements of the supernatural that appear to be drawn to the death and chaos that are ensuing." The men raise their eyebrows and shake their heads with worry. The one who originally called you over says, "My friend, whatever we can do to help, merely ask." "Thank you," you reply. "I will call on you if I have need." They all raise their glasses to you and wish you the best. You leave with no new answers, but at least have made some new friends. Oh, at least my charm went up, I guess. Okay, I have 2 more turns to try and get something done. Alright, I'll visit the Royal Artists Community. You receive an invitation to come to the Palace of the Sultan and visit the Hiref, the Royal Artist Community. Being a sketch artist yourself, this is a remarkable opportunity. After passing through the gates, courtyards, and corridors of the palace, you emerge into a building unlike any other you've seen. Everywhere, painters, sculptors, poets, dancers create their masterpieces under the direct sponsorship of the Sultan. At last, you are introduced to a man named Azim, who is the head of Ali Heref. "Welcome, my friend," he says. "I have heard through my means that you are trying to discover the truth about the curse that has befallen Istanbul. As such, there is a question I would like to ask you, my friend." "Please, ask it," you reply. Azim says, "Why would a foreigner such as yourself wish to save our city?" An old friend of mine asked me to, and I never let a friend down, because people deserve to live free of wickedness no matter where they are from. Azim nods and says, "I was hoping to hear you say that. Follow me." You follow Azim to one of the towers of the artist's building. When he opens the door, you witness a grisly scene. An artist has killed himself, using his own blood to paint the last few strokes of an enormous painting. "What happened here?" he asked. You ask? Azim replies, "Yusuf." Azim replies, "Yusuf was brilliant, but when the killings began in the city, he changed. His mind grew sick. Then, some weeks ago, he locked himself in here and commenced on this." You look up at the painting on the wall. It is both brilliant and frightening at the same time. A castle high on a mountain, with dark clouds raining blood across the surrounding lands. Wolfmen and other monsters emerging from the shadowy corners of the painting. You think it's an omen?" you ask. "I think that you are more of an expert than I," Azim replies. You look down at the bloody artist laying against the wall beneath his masterwork. Clearly, he was moved by something. Walking past the Basilica at night, you catch a faint muffled cry. It seems to have come from somewhere above. You look up at the looming towers. You strain to hear anything else, but no sound drifts down. You watch carefully, but the moon is behind the clouds. You can't make anything out. Still, something sinister is happening up there. You can feel it. Do I risk my life or break in? Sure. Oh. Hold on. What happened here? You are merciless. Your weapon plunges into the cannibal priest's face. His blood sprays around the cellar as he flounders. When he finally collapses dead and gurgling, you fish the ribbon that you had always been... What? Okay. Scaled the walls to something. Did I miss something? I can't go back. Okay, this... You are merciless. Your weapon plunges into the cannibal priest's face. His blood sprays all around the cellar as he flounders. When he finally collapses, dead and gurgling, you fish the ribbon that had always been in the girl's hair out of the stew. You only wish you could forget the image of her eyeball floating next to it. Luckily, a random drain spout finds your flailing hand. What is going on here? Luckily, a random drain spout finds your flailing hand. You manage to pull yourself up. By the time you get to the roof, you are exhausted and trembling from the exertion. You catch your breath and stand to your full height, just as the sound of flapping fabric catches your ears. You turn as the moon breaks through the clouds. You see it, rising up from the roof of the Basilica, concealed from the sight lines of the street below. A 12-foot-tall pike, and on that pike is a man, fully impaled, his blood running down the shaft onto the shingles. He's dead now, probably was before you came over to the roof. Unfortunately, searching through his pockets reveals nothing. There's no indication of who the man was, but something about the way he was killed, the message it conveys, haunts you on your descent back into the streets. Hey, cool. Alright. Well, I guess we gotta finish this now. There's a 6th chapter. Okay. Sultan Mehmed II is sitting down into the water of the palace's grand bath when one of the maidens attending him loops a length of silver cord around his throat. Oops. Oh, okay. Just chuck a dagger into the heart. You leap from behind the tapestry where you are hiding and hurl a dagger directly at the assassin's spine. But she hears your attack and jumps to the side, leaving your flying dagger to embed itself in the back of the Sultan's head. Oops. The assassin pauses for a second, a pleasantly surprised look on her face before fleeing the room. Uh-oh. The guards rush in as she leaves you immediately. Now it's all over. Accident or not, you've killed the Sultan. The guards seek revenge, their swords biting into you again and again as they tear you to pieces. Oh, God. You have overestimated your own abilities and failed. Next time, consider your actions more carefully. Oops. I don't suppose I can do a redo on that one, is there? Nope. Oh boy. Okay. Look. I'm pretty sure that wasn't supposed to happen. And, that's on me. So, but thank you all so much for watching. This has been Vlad, The Impaler, Part 2, and we just finished up my little soldier thing. If you're at all curious, and if you're active enough on my YouTube channel, my comments or something, just let me know if you want me to go through. Again, we had 2 other classes. I think we had the Wizard and the Rogue that we could also upgrade to. But, thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.